What is up, Flockers? That is my fellow lockers and aspiring lockers. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you 5 reasons why you should go ahead and get those braid locks that you have been thinking about. So stick around to find out why. Let me go ahead and put my disclaimer on this video. I am not a loctician. I am not a trained cosmetologist or anything like that. I am just somebody who is on my 4th or 5th lock journey, and I have been through different starter methods, different size locks, and so I have my experiences to speak from and the research that I have done. So anything that I say is my personal opinion from experience and research, as I've said, and nothing is set in stone or anything like that. So take that as you will as you continue to watch this video. The first item on the list for why you should go ahead and just start those braid locks that you've been thinking about is because you don't have to braid and band. Now, depending on the texture of your hair, if you've got super loose curls or waves or whatnot, then maybe you still will need to braid and band. But if you have coarser hair that is coily and super kinky like mine, 4C, 4B, then you're not gonna have a necessity to braid and band. To each their own. Maybe you will still choose to braid and band. For the first, I would say about a month or 6 weeks of my braid lock journey, I did braid and band, but that was simply because I watched a lot of sister lock videos and I watched a lot of other microloc videos with people with other starter methods, and everybody was talking about braiding and banding. So I jumped on the bandwagon and thought, okay, everybody out here with micro tiny locks is braiding and banding, so I need to do the same. Since that 4 to 6 week mark, I have not been braiding and banding, and I've had no issues. So like I said, if you start with braid locks, you're not having to braid and band, which leads me into my second point. The second reason why you should just go ahead and put those braids in your hair is because you're not gonna deal with the slippage and the bunching that you do when you start your locks with other starter methods. Now, again, disclaimer, I'm not saying that you're not gonna experience any bunching or slippage at all. And again, it depends on the texture of your hair. For someone with me, like me with 4C hair, I've had absolutely no bunching or slippage. My locks are forming as they're supposed to. There are locks that come out and they have the swollen look, but that's not bunching. That's just the way that the locks mature and the way that they're supposed to do. So yeah, I have not had any issues with bunching, with slippage, anything like that. And I am going into my 10th month of being locked. So it's another plus of braid locks. Go on and get them done. The number 3 thing on my list for why you should go ahead and plait that hair up is because you experience less shrinkage and less swelling than with other starter methods. Now, when I say less shrinkage, I have had 2-strand twists before, and 2-strand twists, as they mature, they have a serious amount of shrinkage that comes along with them just because of the way that the hair is started with that starter method. With braids, will you still experience shrinkage? Yes, you will. Will you experience the amount of shrinkage? No. My amount of shrinkage is very minimal compared to what I had when I had 2-strand twist. That's just the way it is because your hair is plaited. It has less room to move around, ergo why you have less slippage and bunching, because it's just not going to move as much and have as much freedom as 2-strand twist would. And so, although you don't want to start your braids too tight, because if you start your braids too tight, then you might have the braid pattern for a very, very long time. You do, when you have braids, they're still going to be tight enough that they are not going to allow your hair to swell to a certain state. So even though your hair does still swell, it's not going to swell as much. So for those that are interested in having smaller condensed locks, then braid locks is probably the way to go. And also, you know, whether you choose the 3-point rotation or a 4-point rotation, that gives you a more condensed look also. All of that plays into how you cultivate your lock. All right, and kind of piggybacking off of that one, the 4th reason is that they don't swell as much. So, are your locks going to swell? Yes. No matter what way you start your locks are going to swell. But with certain starter methods, your locks will swell 3 and 4 times their original size, just because of the nature of the lock and how much room they are given to swell. With braid locks, they're still going to swell up probably 2 times, some of them maybe 3 times the size that they were, but they'll eventually condense back down. But you're just not gonna have the same amount of swelling that you do with other starter methods. So if you want a fuller frizzier, well, maybe not frizzier. Maybe some people don't want the frizz, but you're gonna have the frizz no matter what. But if you want a fuller look with your hair, then possibly a 2-strand twist starter method may be what you want to go for, because it allows your lock to expand more. So in those months where you are waiting for the process to happen before they condense back down, they will get very voluminous and give you a very full look to your locks while they are maturing. Whereas Braidlocs, they're not going to be as full, they're not going to be as voluminous as your 2-strand twist would be. So it just depends on what you're trying to achieve and what look you want to have. All right, and my 5th reason for why you just need to go ahead and plait it up is because braids look cool as a style even in the beginning. So you go and you put your plaits in, they look awesome on day 1, they look awesome a week later, because they're not really doing that much for the first several couple of weeks, and depending on how often you do or don't wash your hair will also determine how long it takes before they start getting super fuzzy. So in the very beginning, they look really cool, and then as they start maturing and you get months and months into your journey, as they start getting fuller and frizzier, the braid pattern starts to disappear, and they still look great because there's not that much of a difference or a line of demarcation in between what the braid pattern looks like and what the interlocking pattern looks like. With 2-strand twist, for example, there's a very big differentiation between your hair being twisted like that and then an interlock pattern where your hair, a lot of times interlock patterns look like braids, and people might be like, oh, your hair looks braid because it's woven. It's a type of braid, I guess, or a braid pattern. So there's not a huge differentiation between, or a line of demarcation. Now, of course, when you get super close, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I can see where the braid pattern starts and where although because it's getting fuzzier up, you may not be able to. Yes, it's a little skinnier here because this part has not started getting super fuzzy, but in certain locks, you can't tell the start from the finish, and where that line of demarcation is, it's very hard. So as your locks mature and progress, it gets harder and harder for people to see that you have braids. And it's not unless they're getting like super close on your hair that they're able to be like, oh, you have braids in your hair, or part of your hair is braided. Y'all see that little short nugget that I got right there? That's from that time that I combined 2 locks and tried to separate them with scissors by feel and not looking. Let me tell you, don't do that. Don't do that. Go ahead and look in the mirror when you're separating them, or have someone help you, because I straight up snipped off the end. You can see that there is a good like 3 inches or so of difference in between the locks, but that's okay because it's grown out just fine. But yeah, as I said, unless people are super close on your head, they're not gonna see the braid pattern, and even still, some might not be able to see the braid pattern. As your locks mature, that braid pattern disappears, as it does with all starter methods of locks. But it's just very seamless to go from an interlocked pattern to a braid lock pattern as they both mature and fuzz up the same. So I hope you found these tips helpful. Stick around and check out some of the other videos that are on my channel, as I give tips and stuff all of the time, as well as hairstyle videos and a lot more lock talks and things of that nature. If you found today's video helpful, go ahead and hit that like button, as it helps me to understand what type of content you are enjoying, and also hit that subscribe button so that you can join the flock. Again, stick around and check out one of these other videos that has popped up, and I will see you over there.